Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista. Welcome to our tropical weather outlook video for today, May 30th, 2025. Let's start off with the latest National Hurricane Center homepage. Nothing going on in the Atlantic over the next 7 days. And in the Eastern Pacific, we still have Tropical Storm Alvin, although it is weakening today. Finally, unfavorable conditions have gotten to it. We'll go over what exactly it's doing right now in just a moment, but the latest intensity from the latest advisory by the National Hurricane Center is 50 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds. Minimum central pressure is 1,001 millibars. It's located, if you're tracking it, at 18.1 north, 109.0 west, and it is moving northwest at 10 miles an hour. And then, oh, look at this. You see, we have another area of interest here in the Pacific. A low chance for right now over the next 7 days. We might get our next named storm potentially. A low chance right now over the next 7 days, 30%. But the models are hinting that potentially we might have some more development beyond Alvin to watch for in the Eastern Pacific. And maybe we might get Barbara, which is the next name on the list for the Eastern Pacific hurricane season. We'll go over that. We'll look at the models in a little bit. And then obviously, since we'll be producing here, conditions will also start to get favorable in the Atlantic. And we'll also go over that in just a moment. But here's the latest track for Alvin. You could see not much else really expected with it. It's weakening right now, 50 miles per hour, so it's still a tropical storm, and it's probably going to remain a storm for at least the next 12 hours or so. But by tomorrow, it is going to transition into a post-tropical low, and it'll continue to drift north, probably make it to the Baja Peninsula. Will bring some rain, showers, and thunderstorms with it, but nothing major in terms of impacts. And there also will be swells too along the Mexican coastline. So keep that in mind. Swells and rip currents do have an impact on human life. They do cause death just in the same way that high winds, heavy rain, and flooding with tropical systems can as well. So keep in mind of the rip currents, which will be high for at least the next day or so. But in terms of major impacts, once again, not expecting it from Alvin. And here's the latest satellite image. You could definitely see not intensifying any further. I mentioned to you yesterday that as this was going to move to the northwest, it was going to start to run into colder sea surface temperatures that are less than ideal for tropical development. It is definitely moving into those water temperatures now. And you could also see lots of strong wind shear blowing on top of it. The convective cloud tops associated with Alvin kind of being shoved here to the northeast. It's not directly over the center, and you can even see that the low-level vortex of Alvin is slowly starting to become exposed. So the bottom line is this is weakening, and it won't be long until this will probably fully weaken and completely disintegrate. But obviously, will bring showers and thunderstorms to the Baja and northern Mexico, and is also still bringing some showers and thunderstorms to the central Mexican coast here. So expect some showers, gusty winds. Beyond that, though, nothing major. But beyond that, it will also bring some moisture into the southwest. And you can see from the Weather Prediction Center this map is from, this is the 7-day QPF rainfall totals. And you can see there is some rainfall expected over the southwest. Not a lot, because this is not a major system, but this will still bring some rain to the southwest, especially for Arizona, maybe some of Nevada, and maybe some of southwest California, and also northern and northwestern Mexico as well. So that is a positive aspect of the storm. We will get some moisture for the southwest, and beyond that, we won't see much in the way else from Alvin. So we can pretty much kind of disregard Alvin from here on out. Obviously, don't disregard the gusty winds and heavy rain it might bring, because that'll obviously be a nuisance. But obviously will not be once again a big storm. And you can see on the GFS the 12Z run, and the 18Z run is loading, but it's not entirely ready. So I'm going to show the 12Z for now. You can see pretty much in line with the National Hurricane Center and in line with what I'm saying. It's only a downward spiral from here on out for Alvin. And by the time we get to Monday, and this is pretty much equivalent to right around the Baja Peninsula and heading into Mexico. It is nothing more than just a low pressure that completely pretty much opens up. Obviously, with nothing much else other than, once again, some rain for the Mexican coast. And then by the time we get into early next week, not much else happening in the Eastern Pacific, but you can see back to the southwest here near Central America, still lots of vorticity remains. I've been mentioning that conditions will be favorable in the Western Hemisphere in general, especially as we will see a Central American gyre setup, which is pretty much a broad area of low pressure and general low pressure cyclonic turning over Central America. And we tend to get this set up in the early season and in the late season. And especially in the early season, this can lead to development of tropical systems in the Eastern Pacific and sometimes in the Atlantic too. And especially if you look at the 12Z, if we take it out further into time, some pretty funky things happen in the Atlantic, and certainly it's gotten a lot of attention online today, but I'm not going to mention it because it's not really something you would take verbatim of. But bottom line, conditions will remain favorable, and I'll show you the Atlantic version of the model in just a little bit. But in the Eastern Pacific, it will probably allow for conditions to be favorable enough that you could see there is something else that develops, and then we'll stop this at a week out. Something else is trying to develop, at least in terms of energy and vorticity bundling in the GFS model up to a week out. Something else does try to develop, and obviously it falls in line with the National Hurricane Center adding a second area of interest here that we might need to watch for potential development. So there's that in the Eastern Pacific. And then as for the Atlantic, let's take it out into time over the next week. You can see there's a little bit of this. This is an interesting area. Maybe if this holds, this might be some sort of brief low pressure that tries to spin up but doesn't look like anything major. But nothing in terms of major development in the Eastern Pacific, at least over the next week. But once again, we're just going to have to watch Central America. We're going to have to watch the Western Caribbean. We're going to have to watch the Gulf of Mexico. Conditions will generally become more favorable. And we're not seeing much in the ensembles right now, or in the operational right now, but just showing you what to look at as we look into the month of June. The signs are there that we might need to watch the Atlantic as well as maybe some more activity in the Eastern Pacific. This is the EPS, so this is the Euro ensembles for the 12Z, and there aren't that many ensembles, but there's definitely some here. In fact, we have one strong one that indicates a hurricane entering the southern Gulf, and this is beyond the 240, so 10-day time frame, and definitely beyond the 1 week time frame. But what I'm trying to tell you by showing this graph is that there are signals as we head into early June, because the date here is June 11th, and I've been talking about this for weeks. Conditions will become more favorable, especially aided by the Central American gyre setup that we have into June. We'll probably get some more Eastern Pacific activity, and we might be able to watch for our first storm to potentially form in the Atlantic. And the ensembles hinting at that maybe potentially happening is definitely interesting, considering that conditions will be more favorable around this time frame. So it does make sense to maybe question whether or not this might be legit, especially if you look at the GFS ensembles, the GEFS, and for the 12Z, they're much more aggressive. The Euro shows something, but doesn't jump out. But the GFS, they're really aggressive on potentially something developing as we head into early June, or at least June 11th. So this is, I guess you could say, within the time frame of the first 2 weeks of June. Bottom line, we'll have to watch the first 2 weeks of June. I'll continue to say it, and I've said it many times before. The Western Caribbean and the Gulf, which is where we see these ensembles generally showing activity in, are the climatologically favored areas of the Atlantic hurricane season this time of year as we head into the month of June, especially the first 2 weeks of June. And keeping that in mind, Sea surface temperature anomalies, this is also a huge factor. Sea surface temperature anomalies, especially through the Caribbean and Gulf right now, are very warm, and especially, man, take a look at the northern and eastern Gulf here. Very, very warm sea surface temperature anomalies. So the waters are definitely above normal. Conditions will be coming more favorable. We'll have the MJO move through, and I mentioned that yesterday with the tweet from Ben Knoll. And I'm showing you the ensembles today. It's all coming together. That before you know it, we might have our first storm to watch out for in the Atlantic. And as for right now, we still have our first storm out there in the Eastern Pacific with Alvin, although that is probably on its way out. Will probably dissipate by tomorrow. And then obviously we will have to watch for further development potentially in the Eastern Pacific. Other than that, though, not much else going on in the tropics right now. Still nice and quiet as of right now, but hurricane season is upon us. We're now at May 30th. Tomorrow is the final day of the off season, and I'm going to do a kind of briefing on everything and all the factors to pay attention to and what to expect for this hurricane season tomorrow, since it is the final off season video. And it also falls in line with when we typically do our off season weekly updates on Saturday. So make sure to watch out for that. And on Sunday, I will be doing a live stream Sunday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I'll also talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, but make sure to stay tuned for that. And if you want to stay tuned for all of that, I always recommend, and I will really appreciate if you like, comment, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell so you can get whenever I upload a video or do a live stream the moment I do it, and also share with family and friends and to anybody who you think might find this information interesting. Obviously, it is always good to get our community growing, which I hope we will be able to do a lot of throughout this hurricane season. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace, love, and kindness to you all, and we will talk again tomorrow.